Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome and thank you for being here. And thank you for everyone about to watch us. I call this meeting of Montgomery County School Board to order at 7:02 on May 19, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States
of America
and to the republic
for which it
for
stands,
which stands one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. Next item will be adopting our agenda. May I have a motion to adopt our agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have an agenda. Next item, paying our bills. May I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions regarding our bills? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We pay our bills. Next item is the motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial summary report. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions regarding the report? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We acknowledge the receipt of our report. Next item is our business meeting. Dr. Meyer, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Ms. Caron. First, this celebration. This is the last week of school. We actually made it. You know, the students' last day is on Friday, and the teachers' last day will be next Wednesday. So, yeah, this is one of those. Thank goodness we made it, and I think we've done a good job wrapping up the year considering the circumstances. So, first thing tonight on our agenda is the operating budget. Tonight we're asking you to approve the operating budget for 2020 and 2021. The budget is presented to you tonight, includes the deferred items as requested by the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Krantz is here to provide you with more information regarding the budget. Mr. Krantz, if you explain to him what we've done here.
Yes, I'm here. Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. The first slide is a recap of our revenue section. The budget as adopted in FY20 was $116.452 million. We had our increases, which mainly was $2.8 million of state revenue, $416,000 of federal, and then the request from the county of $1.55 million, which was an increase of $4.831 million, giving us a revised budget that was submitted to the Board of Supervisors of $121.283 million. What the board did, or supervisors did at their meeting a week ago Monday, was they adopted the budget. However, they set aside about $6.9 million, which is the sum, if you look under the proposed deferment due to the coronavirus school operating county funding reserves. The Board of Supervisors took those revenue dollars and set them in a school reserve account. So it's not in the general fund of the county. It's in a designated specific account for the school system. And those funds would become available once we all know what the budget situation will be as a result of the whole COVID-19 virus situation. If you take those dollars out of our revenue account, that brings us to $114.358 million. And I want to stress, it's not that the dollars are gone. They're sitting in a reserve dedicated and designated specifically for the school system. On the expense side, which is the next slide, you can see the budget we balanced at $116.4 million, which was the 20 budget. We had the increases of the salary enhancement, our new positions, and our VRS contribution, which then got us to the $121.28 million. As a result of the uncertainty with our budget because of the state at this moment, which is anticipating going into special session either in August or September, the salary enhancement is being deferred, not taken off the table as we discussed at the last meeting, just deferred. So set aside, unallocated, unallotted. And then the 10 new positions of 700,000 is being set aside, which brings us to a 21 budget at that point of 117.15 million. So separating the two is a difference of $2.795 million. Now, that is not an out of balance. Let me stress that. Okay? It is not an out of balance. The budget is perfectly in balance. With that, because the budget that's adopted is $121.283 million. But we don't have, because the Board of Supervisors did not appropriate yet the 6.9 million of revenue, we don't have all 121 million today available for us to spend. So the district, as you can see, set aside the salary deferment enhancements, the new positions, and we have, depending on how everything plays out, two things to help us balance our operations. One, the CARES Act funds of 1.5 million. Those funds, for example, can be used for the learning environment, the remote learning environment that's in place today that wasn't here on March 13th. Also, the expenses that the district has incurred related to COVID-19. At the point is, at the end of the day, we can use those funds to help us within our budget and still stay in compliance with the CARES Act language. The second category is the year-end funds, which every year we have carryover that occurs. And this year we're projecting 1.5 million in that category. I've had the conversation with the board, with the county administration, and they've agreed that we can specifically, subject to the approval of the superintendent as well as y'all as a school board, we can set those funds into that school account reserve account that they're using on the revenue, and they will be available when we see what our final FY21 budget will be. So what we're asking you to do is adopt the budget as presented of 121 million with the recognition and acknowledgement of what's been deferred by the Board of Supervisors on the revenue, and then the appropriate adjustments on our expense side until we finalize the budget sometime in August or September.
Now, Tommy, they've created an account for the deferment. However, you know, technically we don't have the money from the state in that account because we haven't received that money, and we
Correct.
don't know that we are going to receive that money, that additional money revenue from the actual state. And so, you know, technically we're passing it, but we don't have it. That's why we have to wait to see if we actually get it. But if we didn't get it for some reason because of the economy, then that's where we're saying the CARES Act and the carryover would at least balance us out for this coming school year.
Correct.
We think we're going to get it. Of course, it's still projections when it comes to sales tax and lottery, but we got our sales tax for May, which is 2 months behind based on the month of March, which gave us some idea as to what sales tax may look like, because we knew we would actually take a hit on sales tax, but we didn't know how much. And it actually was a little better than we thought it was going to be. Tommy, will you talk about that?
Yes, sir. So we projected to receive about $1 million in the month of May and $1 million in the month of June. We thought when the COVID situation occurred that $1 million would be discounted probably by at least $250,000, $250,000. And our actual payment we received was 1.025 million. So we actually are $25,000 above what was initially budgeted, as well as 275,000 higher than what we were thinking the discount would be as a result of the COVID situation. Which means that in June, it's very difficult for us to predict what that number will be.
But June will give us even a better idea of what sales tax will look like.
Yes, sir.
Right. And we
Because
do
it'll
know
be
a
a
lot.
full month. It'll be a full month that month.
Right. And we know lottery's down. Not sure how much yet. We were on a call this morning with the state superintendents and the Department of Education, specifically talking about the budget. And basically they're saying, you know, to be careful in terms of the sales tax and lottery estimates. So anything else that they said, Tommy, that you need to mention?
Yes, sir. You were right on the button.
Okay.
Mr. Krantz, how much was it that we received?
1.025 million, $1,025,000 and some change.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we'll do is we'll continue to monitor this as the year goes on. And when we see that, if we see that there's an increase in revenue above what we've projected, whether it's ADM in the fall or at the end of the summer when the state meets again, they end up giving us more money, or if the federal government actually ends up with another relief package, you know, when we see that we have enough, I mean, we're gonna move. Hopefully, if you know, we'll be able to do this. Well, the first thing that we will move forward with would be raises for employees, if that were to occur. That would be our first. That would be my recommendation to you as our first priority, or would be raises for employees. So what that would be is I don't know. It depends on what it looks like as we move forward.
Let me ask to make a motion, and then we can discuss if there are more questions. May I have a motion to approve 2020-2021 school operating budget of $121,283,813 with $6,925,600 deferred for the actions taken by the Board of Supervisors on May 11th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions, board members, or comments?
Okay, so I understand the situation we're in, and I'm really kind of torn whether to go ahead and approve a budget, because this is what we have at this point, with the hope that we're going to be able to do raises and positions at a future date.
Yeah. Ditto.
I just, you know, we are in a crisis with teachers in this country, and our HR department has been working diligently for the last 3-4 years to do things differently, to be able to bring folks to Montgomery County. The superintendent and your team working with the pay scale and the raises we were able to give last year were wonderful. But there's still a lot of folks in our district who deserve raises also, more than what we're projecting to give them. I think for me, saying, well, let's wait, let's defer this, is just wrong. I understand the situation that we're in, but when you keep putting things off, it just makes the teaching profession much more less attractive to folks, because you never know what's going to happen, except that you're not going to get what you deserve. Along with the rest of our employees, our custodians, our aides, our administrative assistants. At some point, public education, there has to be a stream that says we're going to support it because it's important to us as a country, as a county. Board of Supervisors done a great job, like I've said, so I won't keep dragging this on, but it just really, really sticks me to say I would approve something that I just don't believe is right for our country, for our county.
I agree with Penny. I won't add much more to it because I think she said pretty much everything that I've been thinking. It's what I said last week. I really struggle with saying yes to this. I understand the situation. I just hope that should the funds come through, we do what we say we promise to do. Because if we don't, we will lose people, not just teachers, we'll lose people throughout the county. And I think it's really important that we're saying we're going to do this. I hope we do. It's hard because it's hard to say yes to not giving raises to people who've had to change their whole entire style of teaching and working and put out so much extra over these last few months, and to say, oh, sorry, now we don't give you a raise. But I realize that's what's happening throughout the country. So
Miss
I
Cass?
get that. So, but
No, Miss Cass, what would make you think that we wouldn't give that if the money becomes available?
I didn't say anything makes me think that. I'm just saying I hope we do.
We definitely, I mean, all 7 of us, I'm sure, feel the same way, like Miss Franklin and Miss Cass, because I don't think any of us would like to say we don't want to give raises to our teachers, but unfortunately our hands are tied.
Right. I understand that. I understand that, Ms. Corona. That's why I'm saying I'm not saying no to it, but I just, we got to make sure that we come through. That's all.
Yeah.
And there's
Well,
nothing that makes me think we won't. I'm just stating that I want to make sure we do. That's all.
Yeah. And I hope that, and it was interesting because today Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce had legislative Zoom session with Delegate Rush, Delegate Hurst, and Delegate McNamara. And in terms of the General Assembly, K through 12 is still a priority. Even though Virginia is in good shape financially, they are still very reserved to use, whether it's a rainy day fund or the other reserves they have, which affects their bond rating, which they don't want to touch their bond rating because apparently our bond rating as a state was #1, very good since 1938. So they don't want to touch those. So they're really counting on federal government to make the difference for the locality. So that's the sense I got for my, little Zoom session that I had.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping federal government will do what they need to be doing. And I know the CARES Act, we just get 1.5, but I'm hoping other acts will come out or other packages will come out and they will make the difference and we'll get that 6.9 that deferred and we'll do what we want to do. And #1 priority being teacher raises. So, but at this time, since we don't have money and we do not, that's the argument also they did, Virginia State does not print money, but federal government can do. So they have, I mean, those are the exact same words. I wrote things down very thoroughly, but that was the picture they painted. So today, I'm really hoping the federal government can come forward at this time also.
Well, if this isn't a rainy day that we're in, and not just talking about the day here, talking about the situation with the COVID virus, then when is a rainy day?
Yeah,
That's a good point.
I mean,
what are we sitting on that money for when the future of our state and our country are going to be so drastically impacted by how we educate our children through this?
I mean, I totally agree. I kind of wanted to ask that, but I was in a listening mode situation. So they were the one talking. But I get, I think what they were saying that they, because I think that they just put the rainy day funds back and, they're solid, they really hesitant to touch. But like you said, this is a major rainy day. I mean, this is not even rain, snow, ice. I mean, worse than rain, I think. So I mean, if they're not going to use it now, you know, what they're saving for, that's a good question. But we still probably have to keep pushing and reminding them and talking them, writing to them, whatever we need to be doing, hopefully.
All right, Mr. France, and Ms. Cron, I believe they're going back into session at the end of the summer. And
Yes,
that's when
sir.
we really do
That's
need
correct.
to, I mean, that's when we really do need to let them know that we're here.
Yeah,
And that, you know, something needs to be done.
Yeah.
You know, in the call today, I was, you know, listening to several other localities and the superintendent's talk. And, you know, one superintendent basically said this, you know, we're not going to get through this year without furloughs.
Yeah.
Teachers and employees will be furloughed this year because we do not have enough money. And you know, it made me feel, you know, we're pretty lucky to be where we are in the priority our county does make in terms of education. But there are a lot of school divisions around Virginia that will be furloughing teachers and laying them off as in the middle of the year. And if something doesn't occur in the General Assembly at the end of the summer. And so, so we need to definitely make our voices be heard at that
Yes,
point.
exactly.
But I also add, and we did talk about this last week, so I won't belabor the point, but I'd also like to add that, you know, our staff, Dr. Meyer and your staff has been doing a great job. We've been a lot more efficient, I think, with our budgets in the past few years. We've been forward thinking with our technology and where we're going on this. We are really well positioned as a county, not just to move forward with education, but that has a direct impact on the fact that we're not doing furloughs, the fact that we are, you know, we're not laying people off. So, you know, my eye is still on I think the bigger prize, hopefully, of the added positions and a 5% raise over the next several years that's going to come from the state, hopefully, or at least some of the support's going to come from the state, and we'll do our part. So, you know, I guess I don't agree with the kind of doom and gloom picture that maybe some people might take from this conversation. And I do agree with Ms. Karan that I think we're all on the same board here as far as support for our teaching professionals and our staff. But I think we're doing a lot of good things, and I think that the people in this county should be proud of that.
That's a very good way to put it. Thank you, Mr. Chewbacca.
I think I said that when I was thanking our staff for the work that they have been doing to help secure Montgomery County. So, you know, make sure you understand I did say that too.
Yeah. I mean, we all support our staff, our teachers, all personnel, and we've been a supportive school board past 10 years that I can see to get things fixed and to get things right and make it better for everyone. This is like a really unfortunate because we were right around the corner to catch up with things, but hopefully we will continue. I'm you know, optimistic things are gonna get better.
Well, I'm certainly encouraged that we have it in the deferment category. It's not totally out of the budget, which we know could also happen. So as soon as we hear back from the General Assembly, you know, we can proceed with either some or all, or I don't think it'll be none. It will, I hope, be some or none. I mean, some or all.
Any other comments and questions? We have the motion on the. Are you ready to say all those in favor, please say aye? Or let's do a roll call. Brenda, can we do a roll call?
Of course.
Thank you.
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
No,
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Ms. Cass,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Karan.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you, Brenda. The next item is 2020-2021 school nutrition budget.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cron. The school nutrition program, as you know, is now a self-funded program. Tonight, we're asking you to approve the 2020-2021 school nutrition budget. Just to note, meal prices will remain the same for next school year. Mr. Kranz, do you want to go over this with them, please?
Yes, sir.
I know it changed. A lot has changed in the way it looks compared to last year's budget.
Correct. We're projecting an increase on our revenues of 4.5 million to 5.3. We believe that this year we'll end the year at about $4.7 million. We have a balanced budget here that we're presenting to you. The reason that we presented balance with no price increases is that without getting a full year for TNG, we saw an increase in our participation, but we need to continue to increase our student participation. We'll do that by introducing new items and fully implementing the whole package that TNG has. We believe that if we do that, we can increase our participation, and then if necessary, can look at price increases in the future. We've run our scenario by the state, and the state agrees with us that they don't believe that a price increase is needed. We've shown that we can be self-sufficient, we can generate the dollars, and we believe that we'll have a very successful year based on the projections that we put together of $5.3 million on the revenue. Our expenses being right at the same thing, but we do project that number probably will be closer to a profit of about $200,000, honestly.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms.
Second,
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. Thank you, Ms. Graham. Any more discussion? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
I just say that I'm just thrilled the way things have gone with the nutrition group. Just so happy to know that students are eating and our staff and other employees are eating, and through all this that we are still servicing our students.
Mhm.
It's just been a remarkable year.
Absolutely.
absolutely great. Thank you for saying that.
And that we're going to continue the summertime too. That's also very,
Wow.
very
Yeah.
exciting.
Well, and that it doesn't exclude people, because normally, of course, during the summer, we do it at a location, and that's going to limit the number of people that can come there and pick up the food versus the buses delivering.
Yeah. Any other comments?
yeah, I had a-
think
I had
Mr.
a question. I had a question and a comment. So Tommy, on so you're expecting for the fiscal year a surplus of 204,000. Is that correct? That's that net revenue at in the second spreadsheet, second page. Is that correct?
That's if on that second spreadsheet, which you're looking at the general operating fund. So that does not include school nutrition.
Okay, so on the first page then, or I don't know if it's on the first page or not, but as far as I know in past years we've run a net negative, and so we had built up reserves over the years, and so we were cutting into our reserves. I didn't see that on here, but I thought I heard you say that we ran a reserve. Was it a reserve of 400,000? Is that total?
This year,
where we're at?
For FY20, we're projecting right now that we'll show a net profit around $120,000 to $130,000. Now, we've been greatly benefited by what we've done during the virus situation, and that for every meal we serve, we're being reimbursed on lunch at $3.41 a meal, which is significantly higher than we would have received if we had a traditional lunch program going on, because it's a blended rate between your eligibility and full price. When we put together the budget that you're voting on tonight, our goal was to be balanced. But when we've looked at what we've done and where we think we'll be, and a lot depends on when we start the school year.
Yeah.
And are the students going to be with us or not going to be with us? And if they do some kind of modified approach, you know what I'm saying? All of
Sure,
which
there's a lot unknown.
could have a negative, a potential impact on everything, but school nutrition particularly. So I think from a fiscally prudent course of action, it's best to show right now a balanced budget. We believe that what we've accomplished last year, we can take it to another level this year. And we think, as I've said, we believe we can hit a profit of about $200,000. Now, that all is subject to what our operating parameters will be. But we're going to do this. I think the school nutrition team showed during this situation, the whole team did. I mean, my whole operations team that's been involved with the delivery of meals has done a tremendous job. And I think what it's shown is that the staff that we have here at Montgomery County Public Schools can do great things when we all work together as one. And we've done it since March 16th. We continue to do it. We're going to continue to do it this summer. We're going to do it in the fall, and we'll bring you a profit. But I think from a budgetary standpoint, it's better at this point to be conservative and say it'll be balanced. And I think we'll do that. I'm not going to jinx myself, but I think that's very easy for us.
But that's fine, Tommy. I'm not necessarily looking for a profit. I'm looking for information on this, and I think you've answered the question. And I'll also pass along that everything I've heard on this has also equally been fantastic from my corner of the county. So thank you all for what you've done with that program.
Any more questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We approved our school nutrition budget. The next one is our pay plan, Dr. Meyer.
Okay, thanks. The board approves a pay plan annually. This pay plan reflects no pay increase for our employees because of the deferred budget items. Of course, it's our intent to provide a pay increase as soon as additional funds are available from the Board of Supervisors. We're asking you to approve this plan tonight as presented. What we did too, just to make note on the teacher pay scale, just, it took us 4 years to get the pay scale where, I hate to use the word right, but where teachers' experience was indicated on that scale. And so the way we have done it is basically to make sure that is not something that we have gone backwards in. The teacher's experience will still be indicated in that scale in the appropriate manner. Unfortunately, the dollar amount will actually move with them to that next step. However, we're able to give pay increases during the year. We will adjust that accordingly, and hopefully move to what we had planned to do in the first place. So, but one thing we have done is actually secured the correct step for teachers, and where everyone is on the correct step according to their year's experience. And so I just want to make that point too. So, okay.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 pay plan as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further questions, comments, board members?
I just can't approve something that's, okay, you all know the story. Okay.
Any other comments?
I'm having a very tough time with this one, but I get that. I know where we are now and I understand that, but it's such a hard one to swallow. Our teachers are working so hard, and it's unfortunate we can't do anything for them at all.
I mean, I totally agree.
I know. I'm just really struggling with it.
Totally agree, especially all the struggle they've been going through the past months.
I mean, everybody has. I realize it's not just teachers. I get that.
Of course,
everyone. So I understand that, but I just really struggle with this. So.
And Dr. Myers and your team, I do appreciate, like I said earlier, all the work that you all have done to get people where they needed to be, to get the increases. But it's me, I'm just where I'm at.
Yeah, sure. And it's not what our team wants by no means. In fact,
I
Yeah.
understand.
I think this is my 5th budget, and it's the first time that we haven't given a raise.
Yeah.
And because it's been my number one priority, and you all have accepted that as your number one priority every year for the past 4.5 years, and I appreciate that. And it definitely hurts me to see that we're not able to do this. But I promise you, we're going to be looking real hard and holding our folks at the different levels of government that fund us accountable for getting us more funding to be able to do what we said we were going to do 2 months ago. And we're not going to let that slip by. I promise. So.
And again, I have to, look at it, kind of positively, I should say, in a, negative circumstances. I think I'm still thankful that everyone has their jobs and everyone will have their jobs. And again, I think I mentioned that before in my, little family. I had one had a 40% pay cut and the other one that lost a job. So I know our teachers are working so hard, and I'm not any way of shape comparing what my kids were doing versus what teachers are doing or not. But I'm thankful that we're not furloughing anybody. At least we're starting with everybody getting their paychecks, and hopefully we will provide as soon as we see the green. Any other comments? And if not, let's get a roll call on this one to Ms. Drake, please.
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
No,
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Ms. Cass,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Karan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Next item is our teacher evaluation handbook. Dr. Meyer.
Yes, Mr. Knott's here tonight to provide an update on the teacher evaluation handbook. Mr. Knott.
So just a little bit of history. Back in 2012, Virginia was required by the federal government to ensure that our Standard 7 accounted for 40% of our teacher, principal, and superintendent evaluation. That is a very high percentage. This requirement was eliminated in 2019. During the 2019-2020 school year, the VDOE worked on a recommended percentage for all of the standards, gave us a little bit of flexibility on how we could implement that and some options that we could choose. In May of this year, we formed a committee to review what the VDOE gave us and make a decision and a recommendation to Dr. Meyer on how we would like our percentages for all of our evaluation standards to be moving forward into next year. Brenda, if you can go to the next slide.
And Danny, can you let them know who was on that? Okay, I'm sorry.
That's the very next thing, sir. No problem. That committee was made up of myself, Carl, Barbara, and Jonathan Schulz, who helps us with the forms and the math part of that and making sure they calculate correctly. But we also had 2 MCEA representatives. We had Matt Fintrist and Derek Harrison, one elementary and one secondary, who were very valuable to us as we had discussion in our meeting about the evaluation. I sent everybody on the committee all the information that the state had sent us prior to the meeting. Everybody did a really good job looking through that. We discussed back in 2012 why we chose to go with the recommendation that the state made at that point for all the other standard percentages. And we discussed, do we need to change what the state has already recommended or just go with the state recommendation? And it was a unanimous decision to go with the state recommendation. Both Matt and Derek felt very positive about that. 40% for Standard 7 was a huge stressor for our teachers. And cutting that back to what the state recommends at 15%, they really felt like was going to help teachers relax a little bit about the evaluation process and be able to focus on some of the other standards to really work to improve their craft. So you can see there that we recommend we go with the percentages of 15% for standards 1 through 5 and standard 7, and then standard 6 professionalism being 10%. It was 10% prior to that. And you can see there what the old percentages were. I want you to be able to compare the two. Personally, I feel really good about this scenario here. I was on the committee in 2012 when we had to go to that 40%, and it was, this is just going to be so much better for everybody in our division as far as evaluation is concerned. There is, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I'll wait till you're done.
Well, the only other thing I forgot to mention was there really is no policy change that we have to make. In our policy, we don't specify the percentages. We specify the process and how we're going to do it, the evaluations for our teachers, and in the handbook, this is where it would change, those percentages. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Danny, I know that although we have the 15% for student academic progress, the state actually allows us to go to 10%. I'm reading right out of the criteria that's on the VDOE website right now that says how student academic progress is met as the responsibility of local school boards, provided that performance standard 7, student academic progress, is not the least weighted of the performance standards or less than 10%. However, it may be weighted equally as one of the multiple lowest weighted standards. So I would like to recommend that we make student academic progress 10% as opposed to 15%. I think that student academic progress and that is something that has always been such a difficult thing for teachers, having to be evaluated on student performance when you really have no control over how students perform, especially at an elementary and middle school level, and even at a high school level. Though at least at high school, the SOLs count. I was hoping that we would go with the absolute lowest. So I was a little disappointed when you showed this and it was 15%.
We talked about that a little bit, but we felt like 15%, going from 40 to 15% was good. And there are so many different ways you can measure. It doesn't have to just be on the SOL.
But that's the problem though, Danny, is it isn't easy to measure. And that's where the problem has always lied with teachers. And you know that. It's hard because teachers have to come up with these measurements, and you come up with these measurements that don't even really make a lot of sense. And you're held to, and then me as English teacher in the middle school has different measurements than Jane as a middle school teacher in another school, as opposed to another middle school English teacher. And there's really been, it's a very frustrating process. And I just think that to put any more than what the minimum is for student academic progress, I disagree with.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Sue, can I ask a question? Where would you, I mean, assuming that we're not going to be, you know,
I would just take the 5% off there and throw it into something else. You have to make, student academic progress can't be the least. So you couldn't throw it into professionalism. I would probably put it into the instructional pieces, you know, delivery, planning. That's where I would probably throw it.
I think we'd have to change one more too, because I think we'd have to have 3 of the standards equal 10% the way I was reading the
Well, it says that, the way I'm reading it, it sounds like it can't be weighted. It may be weighted equally as one of the multiple lowest weighted standards. So as long as there's another 10%, it could be 10%. That's how I understood it. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it. But.
And I could be too, but I interpreted it to be 3 standards. You had needed 3 standards for that lowest for standard 7 to be that. So we'd have to do some more adjusting to it if that's what we did.
You know, it's not something the board votes on, but obviously I do want your input.
I know, and it's not. I'm just throwing out my opinion on it.
and that's perfectly fine because Sue, I definitely wanted to lower it from 40. That's for sure, because I agree with the points that you make in terms of evaluation based on students' performance. There's so many variables in it that it's hard to compare. It's not apples to apples. It just isn't, from teacher to teacher, kid to kid. There's so many things that are different. But yet, we did ask, Matt and Derek, and of course, Matt, he was running it past the Education Association as well. And we looked at him as representing them when he was sitting there. And I think that they, did he say anything about talking to them, Danny?
No, sir, not in our meeting. He did not.
Okay. Anyway, what other thought? Anybody else have any thoughts? Good. Okay. Change it to 10.
I think
I'm
it is
good.
much better than 40%. That's for sure.
I think that, I think it's pretty good. The previous standards were pretty even on the first 6 standards, and I think the new standard has maintained that while increasing a lot of those things. So I think that that's good. I'm always an incrementalist. I've said that before. This is a big step that I actually support, obviously, but I don't, I think we're, to some degree, we may be splitting hairs on this one. I think that we can look at where we are in a few years, and I think we'll have a lot more data to compare how this is working, and we can always tweak and make some other adjustments then, I think.
Well, I don't think it's splitting hairs when it's your performance evaluation. I don't think a teacher would see that as splitting hairs. I think it's something that teachers feel very strongly about. And right now, we're not giving them raises either. So I wouldn't have a problem with conceding on this, since we're not doing anything else right now.
Well, I would say that the input of, the MCEA has been really active. They come to all of our board meetings. I think all of you individually have relationships with those people. And so I think, in this case and from this stakeholder, I have to accept the committee's input, because they're, so I guess I hear what you're saying, Sue, and I think that it's great that we've gone from 40 to 15. Personally, I also think that if your professional knowledge and you're doing a good job in instructional planning and delivery and assessment and all these other things, that there has to be some of it. At the end of the day, we're here to educate students. At the end of the day, we do, that is a piece of it. And I agree that in past years, it's been, has not been ideal with the SOLs and with the kind of too much of a dependency on testing and that kind of thing. I get that. But I also think that, there's a lot of teachers, I think, that are comfortable with this level. And, it's going to take a lot for me, I think, to go against that.
You think a lot of teachers are comfortable, they'd rather it be 15% than 10%? Is that what you're saying, Mark?
I'm saying that given the metrics that they were given, this is what they came up with. I look at this committee, and it's basically the stakeholders are teachers and administrators. I don't even see parents or community members on this. So I think this is something that we've given them quite a voice in. So and I'm hearing you, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know. Maybe this is something that teachers are split on. Maybe they already had these discussions in committee. Maybe Danny can tell us a little bit more about that.
I will say that, I'm sorry, Sue.
I'm sorry. And Danny, I'm just curious, was the whole 10% thing brought up in conversation? Because it isn't something that, I know that the VDOE, they had this recommendation spreadsheet or table, and they did say 15% for student academic progress, but then they have kind of hidden in this other paragraph that it could go as low as 10%. But it wasn't like a real obvious thing. So I'm just wondering how much conversation was actually had in the meeting about that.
Yes, we did discuss that. We did not have a lot of conversation about it. Derek and Matt both felt very comfortable with the 15%. And one of the things that all of our principals do as far as the standard 7 is they also have process goals that teachers have in there. So it's not all just about student performance. If students and teachers do these things with students, like Dr. Myers writing across the curriculum initiative 2 years ago, last school year, we had process goals for those to try to help students with writing, helps teachers with their standard 7 evaluation, so that if student academic progress, however they determined to meet that, wasn't as good that year as it could have been or might have been, they still didn't, quote unquote, fail on that standard. They still had other things to help keep them at a higher level, so that they weren't throwing all their eggs in one basket, just student performance. We've worked hard to try to help our principals understand that there's more to it, student academic progress, than just the test scores, if that's what they're using to gauge part of that standard. I don't know if that helps or not.
No. I've said my piece. I've said my piece, and I'm, is 15 better than 40? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not that silly. But I was hoping that we would really, the fact that everyone talks about is how testing is so, the whole concept of testing, and everybody wishes there were no SOLs, which this year, fortunately, there weren't, that we even put that much percentage on it. I'm surprised, but I'm just giving you that there was an option for us to go a little lower on that. And I wanted to make sure that was explored.
It was.
Carl and Barbara, you're here, I think, aren't you? Carl is, I believe. Anything else you want to add from that committee, Barbara or Carl? In discussions?
I think Danny captured it very well. The committee, while he did point out that we had the opportunity to go lower, the committee certainly felt comfortable with 15%. Just as Danny explained, it's more than just a test score. They all have the opportunity as part of this to have that process goal that they have choice in. And so again, they were very comfortable with that.
Okay.
I agree with that completely.
And the process goals, I think are I think in some ways more important. And Sue, I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm a true believer that instructional planning and delivery, I think, are the two most important things, because if that happens,
absolutely,
if planning occurs correctly and it's right and it's worked, it's worked on diligently, then academic progress will follow. And so, I was very glad that we could go from the 40%. That's for sure. I always thought that was, sort of ridiculous, to be quite frank with you.
I think in the future, though, Dr. Meyer, on a committee like that is so much involved in a teacher's, this is a big part of their life. This is their performance evaluation. Any person who's an employee realizes how important that is. And the fact that the committee did not have more teacher just 2 people, an MCA person. I don't know who Derek Hairston is.
He's MCA.
I apologize.
He's a teacher.
But I think it would have been nice to have more teacher involvement in something, because I've mentioned this. I mentioned this several months ago, how important this was. Here was a great opportunity for us to really do something for our teachers. We've come through and it's okay, but it could have been better. And I think having the fact that anybody could think that most teachers, or even half of our teachers, would rather it be 15 than 10%, you're wrong. I mean, I would bet my house on it. So
now you got to understand this too. Let me say this real quick. Is you got to understand it's not just teachers who have this 15%, or it was 40%. Administrators, principals do too, all the way to me. And so we all get evaluated on that percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
It's all, yeah, absolutely. So and I've always said the further you get from the classroom, the tougher it is to take. I mean, when I
Yeah,
was
you
a
have least
teacher-
control over that. So
yeah, when I was a teacher, I honestly didn't care if it was all of my evaluation because I felt like I got it done and my kids progressed. But as I stepped back as an assistant principal and then a principal, and it kept being a part of my evaluation. I mean, it's and as superintendent, the board's evaluated me as 40% of my evaluation the last few years on our kids' progress, and so I'm glad. So 15%. I'm glad it's gone down to 15%.
I think right now we're in a really difficult time too. Measuring teachers' performance on academic progress right now is going to be a really tough call.
Penny, you had something to say?
Yeah, so I'm very comfortable with having the Matt and Derek there representing the MC, okay.
MCEA.
Yeah, having their voices there. They are the representatives for the teachers in this county, lacking a union officially. So I'm very comfortable. The work that they do and communicating with the folks within the buildings, I think is wonderful. I wish I could have that kind of contact. So I'm good with them being there and them being okay with the 15%.
Nothing against the MCEA. I give them all lots of credit for doing what they do, but their visibility within a building is almost
well. Sometimes I'm just going to say this. Sometimes that depends on the people in the building. You have to reach out to those folks and give your input and give your opinions on things, just as it is that one person can't go around to every single person all the time.
And you have to pay money to be in the MCEA also.
And you should be paying it because it takes money to be able to provide those services. So I have absolutely no problem with that either. So I'm good with the work that they're doing and their representation.
And I'll add that I think that it's great to have the voice of the MCA because of the important work they do. But I think Sue brings up a extremely valid point, which is when we're dealing with situations where we're looking for stakeholder input, that can certainly be maximized in other ways. And certainly, again, no disrespect to the MCA. Obviously, I have much respect for them, but there are other voices and there should be other avenues. For teachers to weigh in on things that affect their jobs in something like this. But I think given where we are on this and what we're talking about, I think I'm comfortable moving forward. But it's your point is well taken, Sue. I hear what you're saying.
Well, I appreciate that, Mark, because I think that two teachers out of how many teachers do we have in our county?
Even if it's not just two teachers, I mean, if it's
how many teachers do we have in our county?
Just under 900.
900.
So if it's two teachers that represent even 500 teachers, that's great, and I'm okay with that. But I always like to put my ear to the ground or to get input, kind of all the way around.
Well, then I say again,
I think as a stakeholder,
they need to get more involved with the MCEA so that their voices can be heard if there's an issue with that.
I mean,
we don't have a forced union. We can't force people to join the MCEA.
I didn't say anything about forcing anyone. It's your right, your privilege to be able to do that. And if you don't exercise that, then that's on you.
But there is a reason we have those groups, MCEA, so that they can represent teachers. There is a PTA.
So I make a low salary, and you're telling me I have to pay more money so that I can have my voice heard in our county. That's wrong.
That is what I'm saying.
That's wrong.
That is
Period.
Exactly. Their presence is one of the things that helps to make sure that pressure is put on the state, the feds, and the local governing bodies to be able to get the money that you do have now, the benefits that you do have now. They are a huge part of that.
I would, I actually agree with, believe it or not, I agree with what both of you are saying. I do think it's important, and I hope that teachers will voluntarily join the MCA and make their voices heard and reach out. But if we're talking about forums within our school system, we're having committees and things like that. There's not going to be a gatekeeper besides us to have your voice heard as a stakeholder.
If you don't raise your voice, it won't get heard. So if you sit back and don't do anything, then it doesn't get heard.
I think in this case, I'm not sure how the committee was formed, but I'm not sure that maybe teachers outside the MCA in this case, and again, I'm not trying to make more out of this than there is, but this is an important point for me. It's important to me that we're clear on this, that if we're forming committees and we want input, for example, from teachers, absolutely we should invite representatives from the MCA. We should also give other teachers a voice. And in this case, it's just not, I'm not saying that there wasn't, I'm just saying it's not clear to me. And I just want to make sure that it's understood that from my point of view, that teacher input does not necessarily have to come through a different organization. It can come directly to us as MCPS.
And all they have to do is raise their voices. Let their concerns be heard.
Ready to move forward? I
Well,
can be.
yeah, and I'll say this too, just one last thing. We'll send this out and let folks know how we got to it. It doesn't have to go into effect until next school year, so we can still consider looking at it and changing it.
I think that's a great way to move forward, Mark. I don't. There's some heavy lifting to just get to this point, and I think from here, I wouldn't expect that there would be a wholesale overhaul, but to give other teachers, or just to let teachers know this is happening and give them that opportunity to raise their voice, as Ms. Franklin said, I think would be great.
We can send something out to teachers, letting them know about the process, and this is what this committee came up with. If to reach out if they don't agree with it, and maybe reconvene with a few more folks on it. Honestly, 10%, 15%, it's and at the end of the day, I'll say this too. I've been doing this a long time in terms of teacher evaluation. In fact, I've been doing it for about 20 years as an administrator on up, and I can't remember one teacher that's been dismissed because of student academic progress. Not one. It's usually in instruction and planning and delivery and professionalism. Usually it's not progress. And now you can see where progress can fail based on lack of planning and delivery and professionalism. But I've never seen student academic progress hurt hardly anyone. And so, or definitely not lose your job. So anyway, we can throw it out and see if we get anyone who has any folks have strong opinions to lower it even more. We'll see. Okay. All right. Anything else on this?
I think ready to move forward.
Okay. COVID-19 update. Our team continues to work through the crisis. We've successfully completed 10 weeks of remote learning and delivered meals to students during this time. And I'll say I'm so proud of our staff and our workers and everyone who's been involved in everything, whether it be instruction or food delivery. We're one of the only school divisions in the state who's been able to continue to do both instruction and food. And excited about how we're going to move forward in the summer as well. Everyone on our staff's worked hard to make this happen. It's just absolutely amazing this summer. We're already started summer school yesterday, actually, for some new courses. And I'm already watching, we're actually using an online Google Hangout to do instruction where the kids are at home and the teacher is somewhere else, And the reason I know this is because I have 2 kids in my house that are taking summer school PE and health. And they are, they're meeting at 10 o'clock every morning for health lessons. And it's going great. I'm just enjoying seeing what they're doing and the interaction online like this. And so it's really neat. And it's just, you know, we're hopefully can move forward and make it even better. So Mr. Pauly, is it you going to do this or Annie?
I had you do this
For the graduation.
So we have updated our traffic patterns just a little bit. So we wanted to just run them by you real quick so you know what's happening.
So you'll know how to go, so you'll know how to get into the parking lot too, for each one of you, all right?
Yes. So the police have agreed to close off Washington Street so that we don't have to direct traffic from Washington onto Duck Pond Drive. And they're also going to close Duck Pond Drive right before you get, or right after the first entrance to that lowest parking lot there. So we're actually routing all traffic through that parking lot. If families are together, family groups are in line together in their cars, then they can just progress on and move up to that first stop sign, hang a right, go to the next stop sign, hang a left to Duck Pond Drive. If they have not been able to keep their family groups together and their guests with them, then they have that parking lot to organize themselves and then move out. But for each of you, if you're driving separately or if you're in one car, sharing a car, you're still going to pull into that parking lot and then you don't have to obviously stay and wait for anybody to organize with you. You can just go straight up to that stop sign, turn right, go to the next stop sign, and turn left back onto Duck Pond. If you go to the next slide then, Brenda, I want to show you all where you'll park. So it's a little bit difficult to see, but there, if you look where it says primary entrance, you will come that way just like everyone else. And I will personally be standing there and I will try to catch you guys as you come in and direct you to exactly where you're going. But if you see right in front of the stage where it says AV, that's the audiovisual table, there are 4 spots to the left and 4 spots to the right of that AV table. Those will be coned off and reserved for board members parking. So when you come in at the primary entrance, just look for me and I will help direct you to those spots. And if you don't see me for some reason, that's exactly where they are. Orange cones right on either side of the AV table, right in front of the stage.
And so then it's easy out. You'll just take a left out of your parking spot when it's time and go over to number 4 and take a right to leave. And so, you know, we met this past week with Virginia Tech again, head of one sergeant in the police department, and we'll meet again just to make sure. But I'm real proud of all the team after that in terms of everyone coming together to make this happen. And I will say this too, in that parking lot where everyone's organizing and in the main parking lot and at that entrance, all of our central office administrators will be working that day. We're going to be the ones working the parking lots. Annie's team, Tommy's team, but the administrators will be working those lots the entire day for all 4 graduations. So don't expect me to show up in a bow tie. I'll be in shorts, and we all have golf shirts. We're all as workers, all the workers, including the custodians that will be there, the facilities workers. We're all wearing orange shirts with maroon MCPS logo in honor of the host institution. And so, but we'll be working that day, and we're excited to work for our kids and our families to be able to give them this opportunity and this really neat graduation. We've got everything set with the AV, and every kid will be able to download a video. Every kid gets a picture of them graduating. It's being broadcast through AM and FM radio and on Facebook. I think it's going to be a great day. Just pray that weather is good. So
I'm very excited.
I won't be able to come to all of them, just the last two. Will that be a problem with me being able to have a spot in the front? Okay.
No.
I can't take
It will
off
not be
right
a
now.
problem. It won't be a problem, Jamie. You'll just come in the same way and I'll just direct you right there. We'll keep your spot reserved.
Thank you. That's what I was going to ask. You know, I'll be there for the 2:30, but I just can't be there for the morning. I can't take off right now.
The you know, back in that
I'll be
original
easy to spot.
Okay, thank you.
back in the original parking lot too, I want to thank our food service for providing lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all workers throughout the day, including police officers and Virginia Tech Parking and us. So you guys are welcome to stop in that parking lot and grab something to eat on the way down if you'd like, at whatever time you're going to be there. And so we appreciate that as well.
So can we get one of those little orange shirts with the logo and the maroon shirts with the orange or whatever you said too?
Oh, come on, Jamie. Just want everything.
Miss
We
Drake.
gotta buy it. I mean, that's a cute idea.
If you want to work all day.
Do what?
So
You
maybe
gotta
if you want to
work
work
in
all
the
day.
Did you not hear me say I would buy it?
We could probably work that out for anybody who wants.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, yep.
And if we, any reason between the graduations, if we leave, the coming back is the following the same pattern, all right?
Yeah. It is. Yep.
Good.
Absolutely. And if you stay there for more graduations and you want to drive to the top of the parking lot, you know, to get closer to the food or something like that, you can. You know, we are going to have porta potties there. We're going to have custodians there cleaning them throughout the day, making sure they're sanitized. You know, that's one thing that we're doing in terms of precaution. Our facilities folks we'll have an electrician there in case we have electrical issues. We'll have, you know, we'll be changing the banner between every graduation for each school, has its own banner. And Tommy, what have I missed that we're doing?
We'll have transportation there. So if anyone has any battery problems and or if a car breaks down, we'll have our tow truck there.
Yeah, tow truck in case a kid's car breaks down, we'll pull them across.
Know
Okay.
about everything. That's great.
So I think we have all aspects of the operations covered.
Amazing.
I can't wait.
All right, Annie?
Yes. So as you know, we are kind of up in the air and trying to figure out what it is that will be going on next year. And while we're waiting to get more guidance from the state, we're working on planning for a return to school. So a committee has been established to advise Dr. Meyer on what we should do and what their advice and opinions are regarding a return to school. The first step of that is the teacher's needs survey. And so that went out to our staff and they're completing that at this time. And the goal of that survey is really to identify the successes that the teachers found, get insight about what made those successes successful, how can we replicate them, what were the challenges that they faced in the current remote learning environment, to ask them what kind of training they need. Maybe they don't know what kind of training they need to, so to ask them what has been a really great tool that you've been using that you think somebody else might need to be aware of. So we're really trying to gauge from those teachers their feedback so that if in the event, you know, that we are moving forward in this same manner, that we're able to provide a higher level of instruction to our students. And so you can go ahead and click that one. The step of that we talked about with those advisory committees, they're going to be led by Dr. Wickham and by Mr. Pauly. They are going to be meeting with those elementary and secondary advisory groups. They'll review the survey feedback, get input, and then report that information back to Dr. Meyer, providing him multiple options. You know, in this event, this is what it might look like, or in this event, here are things that we think that we might need to address, and identifying the pros and cons of each option. And so the team makeup for those committees, each of those committees is going to have principals, teachers, and parents. So on elementary, we have all of those groups represented, and each school is represented as well. And then for our secondary advisory committee, we have each of those groups represented, as well as our students will be represented on those committees. And so each will have each strand represented, as well as middle and high school will be represented on that committee as well. Sorry, I'm waiting. There you go. Did you have any questions on those before we go to the next slide?
One thing that we'll let folks know soon is when we send out information, we'll give a list of, we'll name the folks that are going to be on these committees and their contact information, and then ask folks to, if they have any input, they're free to talk to committee members.
How were the parents picked? Was it through PTA or PTO, or was it, can you speak to that?
I don't know that there was a formula that we used. We based it off of what schools were not represented already in terms of a teacher or a principal. You know, we've had multiple people, and I appreciate this, the community wanting to be on these committees, but you know, we do not want the committee so large that they can't be effective. And so I don't know that there was any, Carl and Brenda, you want to speak to how the parents came about?
Well, there certainly wasn't any formal process, as Dr. Meyer said. It was, we had a number of people that responded to the announcement that we were forming the committee and asked if they could be a part. And then Dr. Wickham and I took a look at who had volunteered to be on the committee, and we wanted to ensure that we had representation, in Dr. Wickham's case, from each elementary school, and in my case, from each level, that being middle school and high school, as well as each strand, if you will. So it was just sort of a who fit the right profile as far as representation goes. And we were fortunate enough to have enough folks to pick from. And then it became a matter of contacting those people and making sure they were still interested.
Carl, how many did you have? Do you have on your committee right now? Approximately.
I think it's about 15. It could be 16, but I think it's 15.
I knew it was 15 or 16.
I think that's a great approach. I appreciate that. I actually had a question about that this week, and that's why I asked. But I do think that that's a good way to do it, is to get, you don't need a parent from every school, but just make sure you have either a parent or a teacher or an administrator from every school, and just keep the numbers manageable. So I appreciate that.
Barbara?
Yes, I concur with what Carl said. I think right now I have about 14 members on the committee, and we have 4 principals, so we have representation from all of our communities. We have 1 teacher from each grade level, K through 5. We have a specialty teacher, and we looked at our parents again, just making sure, as Carl said, that we have representation from all communities and all schools.
That's one thing to note too. We do have a specialty teacher on the elementary committee, and we have one of the arts teachers on the secondary committee. And that was requested by our group of arts and specialty teachers, that we have that representation, and I think that is fine.
That's great.
Okay.
Summer feeding, the 45 days as of May 15th, we've served almost 365,000 meals. That's an average of over 8,100 meals per day. Beginning May 26th, we will begin delivering meals once a week, lunch only. The Eastmont and Auburn strands will be on Tuesday. Wednesday will be Blacksburg, and Thursday will be Christiansburg. Just like we did during spring break, we'll provide on this Friday. For example, in the Eastmont, we'll provide their lunch and breakfast. For Friday, we'll provide lunch for Memorial Day. And then on Tuesday, we'll continue that so everybody gets the same number of meals as we go through this. And we don't want anybody to miss a meal on any given day. So we're excited about it, and we look forward to how this one's going to work this summer.
It's just amazing.
Yes, it is. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Looks like next one is our unfinished business. Board members, any unfinished business?
I do think we need to figure out how we can meet in person to have broader conversation.
Any comments on that, board members, at this time?
I'm not, I guess I'm not sure about, is that a general thing or about a specific meeting? Sorry, I'm a little confused.
I would think Ms. Franklin, talking about the board meetings.
Yes.
Didn't you? Yeah. Did you send out something to the board members?
I did.
Okay. What was the result of that?
For the next meeting, the one I think I share with everyone. I don't think maybe I share with the results with you, but the June 2nd one, the closed session for your evaluation. Overall, Zoom was the preferable way to meet at this time still.
We're doing that at 5 o'clock, I believe.
That was the time we talked about it last time, unless there's a change, it was 5 o'clock. Any other unfinished business? Then I'm moving on new business. Any new business, board members? Hearing none. How about announcements and information? Moving on to agenda prep. And that's what it looks like. We have not talked about the time for June 9, and I think that's another closed session meeting. Do we want to do it again 5 o'clock, or do we have any preference?
I'm sorry, what day was that?
The following Tuesday after June 2nd. June
Okay.
2nd is the first
Gotcha.
Tuesday.
I thought you said June 5th, and I was gonna say, now, wait a minute, did I miss
No.
something?
No, no.
Gotcha.
We're still sticking to Tuesdays.
That's good. I can do that.
Are you all be okay 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
All right. So we can say 5 o'clock to that one too. And I guess for the June 16, is it too early to decide whether we need to meet or we have to meet? We don't have to worry about it right now, probably. Am I right, Dr. Meyer?
What date was that?
That's our that's a regular meeting, second meeting of the month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you still meet. I think that is, yeah, I think you do. Yeah, the second is when I present the self-evaluation. The 9th is when you all talk about it. I think the 16th when you all approve it.
You vote. That's correct. That's correct.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll have, we'll have business, I would say.
I would think so.
Because, yeah, is it the first meeting in July that's different that we wait on?
Typically in July, we don't meet. Or
That's correct.
Okay. So I think it'd be good to meet the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay. In July, we'll might have to play some things by ear on that one, especially that second towards the end of July. Just seeing where we are on planning for the school year. If we get any updates from the governor, and I think I need to update you folks on things, then we might have to come together on that. Okay.
That's fine. Yeah. If we have to, we'll meet. I mean,
Okay.
not,
Has there been any input from the state on, on these electronic meetings? I know I bring this up, I feel like every other meeting just to see if they've advised on this or not yet.
No, the state doesn't advise on it. Basically, they say, check with your school board attorney. I mean, that they don't, it's illegal, but it's in the state, I don't know what they've done to ease the requirement.
That's what I meant. So they're not gonna give us any easing of the legal requirement on that.
You know, from what I've seen, I have not seen any.
Okay.
And that's why I was saying,
Yeah, I get you now, Ms. Franklin. I get it. Yeah.
well, I think as of now till June 10th is the stay at home order, all right? And after
No.
that is not even, that's not even, unless it changes, that's not even
It's
applicable.
it's the gatherings of 10. That's the issue. If they get to 50, guess what? Hey, Brenda.
That's right.
Okay. All
Brenda,
right.
did you have something?
I was waiting for Dr. Meyer.
No, go ahead, Brenda.
I'm sorry. So as long as the state is in a state of emergency, which does last beyond June 10th, you are still eligible to take advantage of these meetings. At the point that a state of emergency is no longer in place in Virginia, this is no longer an option for you
Okay, that's
as a board.
Good.
And they did provide a little bit of expansion in the guidelines by saying that you could take action on things that were not related to the emergency. That is an extension. That's not something that was in place before. And so that's why we've been able to bring some action items to you that weren't really necessarily related to this emergency. They just haven't loosened up the informational component where we can really provide you some nice, thorough presentations on things that are not about this emergency. That's still the one prohibition that is in place based on the guidance we've received.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that clears that. I get all confused. I appreciate that, Brenda. And I think we're anything else before we get into closed session? We're good. Our next order of business is closed session. May I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss one personnel matter as authorized by section 2.2-3711 of Code of Virginia.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Now we're in closed session.
Bye.